Imagine connecting your favorite applications and services without writing a single line of code. That's the power of Azure Logic Apps, which can integrate different applications together to automate your business processes. Welcome to this tutorial about Azure Logic Apps. My name is Navneet Kumar. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer and the founder of Traincast Technologies. Learning objectives of this tutorial are understanding Azure Logic Apps, key features and benefits, how it works, different use cases, and finally I will take you through a demonstration on creating and managing the Azure Logic Apps. Azure Logic Apps is a cloud-based service that allows you to create and automate workflows between different applications, systems, and services. It's like a digital glue that connects different systems, enabling them to work together seamlessly. This helps in automating your complex business processes easily without writing any code. If I talk about the key features of the Azure Logic Apps, number one is connectors. It has a vast library of pre-built-in connectors to integrate with various services like Office 365, Salesforce, Azure Storage, HTTP, FTP. So many different connectors are there which are built in. You can write your custom connectors as well for your applications or line of business applications to automate. Number two is Workflow Designer. This is a visual interface for building workflows using drag and drop actions. In this case, it is not a text-based workflow where you have to write the codes literally. Here you use the graphical workflows, you pull the actions and put them together. Next is triggers. Any workflow will have the starting point and that is its trigger. This trigger starts the workflow based on the events like a new email has been received, file has been uploaded, or based on the scheduled intervals. Next is actions. So you can perform the tasks like sending emails, creating files, calling the APIs, and many more things you can do with the help of the actions offered by these SaaS API connectors. Next feature is scalability. It can handle large volume of data and processes that efficiently. Coming to the benefits of the Azure Logic app, it offers the increased efficiency. You can automate the repetitive tasks. You can free up the human resources for more strategic work. You can reduce the errors. It minimizes the human errors by automating the processes. Next is improved productivity. You get streamlined workflows and this boosts the overall productivity of your organization. Coming to the execution of this workflow or requirements to deploy these workflows. So the process of working a Azure Logic App workflow is that you start creating a workflow, then you define the triggers, the very first thing that is required to trigger this workflow. Then you add the actions. So in the actions, you choose the actions from the connectors that you have selected. Based on the connector, you choose a particular action that you want to take. For an instance, if it is Office 365 connector for Outlook, then you can use it to send the emails. Next is set conditions. You can put your business logic. You can define the rules for branching and decision making within this workflow. Finally, you deploy and run this workflow inside the Logic Apps. You deploy the Logic Apps to the cloud and you start the automation process. This is how the Azure Logic App works. If I talk about the use cases of the Azure Logic Apps, it can be used for data integration to transfer the data between different systems like databases or cloud storages. Next is business process automation. You can automate the repetitive tasks. For an instance, you have some approval workflow or invoice processing system, and that is a manual task you are doing. So you have to do those things repeatedly. You can automate them using Logic Apps. Next is integration with SaaS applications. So you can connect cloud applications together, Salesforce, Dropbox, Outlook, or many Office 365 applications are there. So you can use those connectors to connect these applications with your line of business applications or to define the automation workflows. You can do B2B integration as well. So this allows to exchange the data with partners using EDI or other formats. If I talk about the difference between Azure Functions or the Logic Apps, then these two services in Azure share some of the common capabilities that results into the confusion that where shall we use the Logic Apps or in what cases we should go with Azure Functions. Both the functions and Logic Apps enable the serverless workloads. That is one of the similar thing between these. That means the compute is not permanently assigned to them. Serverless means you do not configure the servers. These backend servers or their operating systems or their security and patching is handled by Microsoft Azure platform. So if I talk about the key differences between these two serverless application services or compute services, number one is development. In context with development, with Azure Functions, you go with code first. That is the imperative approach, where you focus on how to do the things. Whereas in the Logic app, you go with designer first approach. That means it's declarative. You declare that what you need. That backend coding has been handled by the connectors. Next is connectivity. So we have about a dozen built-in binding types. We can write the code for custom bindings as well. In Logic Apps, we have a large collection of connectors. We have hundreds of connectors available for these different SaaS applications. We have enterprise integration pack for B2B scenarios or build custom connectors for your line of business applications. Coming to the actions, each activity in an Azure function, write code for activity functions. You will have to write the code for it. But in Logic app, you use large collection of ready-made actions. Coming to monitoring, Azure Application Insights is available with Azure Functions. In Logic apps, we have Azure Portal, Azure Monitor Logs that we can use for monitoring. For management, we use REST APIs or Visual Studio for managing these functions, whereas the Logic apps can be managed through Azure Portal, REST API, PowerShell, or Visual Studio. In executions context, you can run locally these functions or you can run them in the cloud. Logic apps supports run anywhere scenario. You can run them anywhere. After discussion of the functions and the Logic apps, their similarities or the differences and the criteria to decide that what suits to your requirement, let us look into creating and managing the Logic apps in Microsoft Azure. The Azure Logic app, I will move to the Azure portal and click on the hamburger icon to create a resource. We'll choose Azure Logic Apps. From the marketplace, I will choose the solution from Microsoft, which will be for Logic Apps. Here we go. Click Create Logic App. Here are the different plans. I'm going with the consumption based model. We have the standard tier as well. Consumption based means that whatever I will consume, I will pay for that. The compute will be assigned based on the trigger. And if I have a single workflow to execute, then it is best suited for that requirement. If I have multiple workflows, then I can go with uh, workflow service plans or the app service environment for a dedicated isolated instance running inside my virtual network for running the automation workflows. So if isolation is required, you can think of using the app service environment. I'm going with this consumption based model. Click on select to choose the model. Then I will provide the resource group here. So Azure Logic App and RG. Click OK. Logic App name, you need to provide a unique name over here. So my first Logic App, and then this is North Central US, or I will choose the region where I want to deploy it. Log analytics, no, I don't want this log analytics to turn on for this. Review and then create it. Tag is optional, I have ignored it, but in production we provide the tags to understand the billing and to filter the resources using the tags allocated to them. Tags are nothing but the key value pairs assigned to your resources to find them easily and to understand the billing. Final validation is completed. Now I will click on create button to create this logic app. This will take few seconds to create the logic app. The logic app has been deployed. I will go to the resource and will open the designer for this logic app to put my workflow under this logic app canvas. So the very first thing that you need to add in a workflow is a trigger that will trigger this logic app. You will notice that there are lots of triggers that you can choose from. There are lots of built-in connectors. You can choose the runtime, shared or custom, the action type. You can search for a particular trigger. So for an instance, I'm using a trigger for RSS feed. So when a feed item is published, I will be using this as a trigger. RSS actually stands for really simple syndication, and what it does is it's a web based feed that is used to publish the frequently updated content like the blog entries, the news headlines, or it can be audio and video also in a standardized format. So I will get that sort of syndication of using it so that I can efficiently consume the content that is relevant to me from different sources. So that is the kind of uh, trigger I have assigned to this. Now in this I can create the connection, and this connection that I will be creating for this RSS feed to a particular website or a feed URL I need to provide. So I'm connecting to one of the feed where from I want to consume some content, some articles that have been published over there. I want to see them. So this is the list of the parameters for the connector that I need to provide. Okay, so here I can choose the different settings, like parameters is this, settings is that split on array, whether I want to use it with array, split on tracking ID, action timeout for this. Okay, trigger condition, if any trigger condition I want, so that I can use. You can have a code view also over here. This is for networking, this is for security, this is for tracking ID. So you can provide these details and they are self-explanatory. Here you will see the exclamation mark that explains you each and every parameter of this connector or this trigger. Now how often do you want to check for the items, you can define the settings like 3 intervals, okay, or only 1 interval for an instance, okay, every minute for an instance I want that. So minute, or I want that hourly or something, I can configure accordingly because I'm in the testing environment, so I want that every minute it is refreshed. I can choose the time zone. So I'm in the plus 5:30, so I will be choosing the time zone accordingly. So here we go. This is here it is, UTC plus 5:30, and then I can define the start time for this as well, that when do I want to start. So I can configure this as well. So these are some configuration settings that I can do in the feed. Now I will choose the another connector, and that is to provide some action, and that action is going to be, let's say, my Office 365 or maybe my personal, that Outlook connector. So I mean, for personal emails I will be using Outlook to send the emails, or what I can do is I can use Office 365 connector as well. So Office 365. So what you want to do, you can decide, you want to send a WhatsApp message, you want to use Viber, Slack, any sort of service that you want to use, so you can choose them. Now for an instance, I want to send an email through my Office 365 connector, my official email. So then I can send this email, but for that I need to establish a connectivity with this application connector. So I need to authenticate with the legitimate credentials, and as soon as the connectivity is established, then we are good to go with that. So I will put my account over here. I will authenticate. There we go. So it is signing in and adding a connection using the service account over here. Now I will define that to whom I want to send the email. For an instance, I want to send the email to my personal email ID, navneetchan1988@live.com, where I want to send that email. This will be a new feed update, some static content I'm putting, and then I can put some actions, the data from the previous step, let's say the feed ID or the feed ID or the feed title. Then hi Navneet, there is a feed update as per below details, and there I put the, let's say, feed title. So I can take that content over here, then I can put that feed updated on or feed summary. So I put some summary over here. So as much as static or dynamic content you want to put, you can define it over here, and then finally you can save this configuration. So this is the settings, data handling, automatic decompression of this settings you can do. This is the code view of this, that how it is configured, and then this is the trigger that has been configured over here. So this connection has been done, and now here you see that option, you have the option to add the note to this, or you can delete this also. So the action that you have is specified here. Now this is connected. What I can do is I can save my Logic app finally, and I have kept it very short with two different things. One is the trigger and second one is the action. You can create this workflow as per your requirement based on the business process automation. Then once this is all set, you can execute this uh, workflow, or it will check for the updates every minute and will send that. So here if I take you to this Logic app or maybe this logic app overview of this. So some attributes that you see here are the resource group, the region where it is, the subscription and all. Now I'm going to trigger it manually. So when I trigger this, it has successfully checked the trigger, and you can also check under the monitoring, the matrix logs or diagnostic settings. You can check the run history as well, that what is the status of the execution of it. So it is showing that no run, but shortly there will be history come up over here that I have executed it once and whether it was executed successfully or not. So you can check that, and if there is anything that is wrong, so it will show you that as well. So this is your workflow. You can trigger it from here as well. Successfully checked the trigger, and run history will be updated accordingly. So it will take a while to update this over here, and soon I will receive the email on my email ID about this.